Hey, this is Jeff, and today I'm kicking off a no-kill run of the Fallout 3 DLC. If you saw the Pacifism and More series for the base game, welcome back. If not, I did a no-kill run of Fallout 3 while making a mod to work around any places the game required killing something to complete an objective. Of course, you could do that just by using console commands, but the point of the mod was I wanted it to be immersive, lore-friendly, and reasonably balanced in terms of gameplay. Doing the YouTube series and developing the mod concurrently let me incorporate a lot of suggestions from the video comments into the version that was eventually released on the Nexus. In this series, I'll be doing the same thing with the DLC. My first dilemma was what order to play them in, but I'll talk about that when we get there. This is Luce, with whom I finished the base game, main quest, and all side quests, with people killed and creatures killed both at 0. She's a pacifist, but not exactly a good person. Bit of a kleptomaniac, to be honest. Or maybe a better example, during Tranquility Lane she refused to use the failsafe because that would kill the residents in the real world, so she obeyed Betty and became the pint-sized slasher. With the mod, killing them in the simulation doesn't bump up your kill count because they're actually still alive, but it doesn't change the game's vanilla behavior of giving you negative karma because that dooms them to an eternity of being tormented by Betty. The meta reason she occasionally did evil things that canceled out her good deeds is that I wanted to keep her karma neutral so she wouldn't be hassled by Talon mercs or regulators. On a related note, Luce sometimes does things that might seem counterintuitive in-game because Jeff knows the best way to proceed from having played it before. My headcanon to reconcile my role-playing purist ethos with the pragmatic necessities of a no-kill challenge is that she has unreliable but occasionally useful psychic powers. Anyway, let's get this show on the road, and I'll explain the mod a little better on the way. It turned out the main quest line only has one place that literally requires you to kill something to make progress. The rad roach Dad tells you to kill in the tutorial. I added a new dialogue option to tell him you're a pacifist. He says he respects your principles, so he kills it for you. Which technically could have been the end of it, but that would have been a really short video and a pretty lame mod.
Is there a mission to undertake?
Time to head back into the fight, RL3.
I should definitely say so. Time to roll out.
The side quests were another story. There were several places where I had to provide alternate non-violent solutions to quest objectives that require killing in the vanilla game. They weren't necessarily easier than the standard objectives. In fact, I think some of them were maybe slightly more difficult. As I said, one of the mod's design goals was to not break gameplay balance. The and more part of Pacifism and More is that it fixes a number of bugs that didn't really have anything to do with supporting a no-kill run, but I haven't seen addressed elsewhere. Things like the weirdness with Lucy West's dialogue if you don't do certain tasks in the exact right order during blood ties, multiple dialogue bugs in Trouble on the Home Front, that kind of thing. If you haven't guessed already, I'm doing Operation Anchorage first. Luce developed a very close relationship with the Outcasts during the first series, so it's high time to check out their distress call. And if there's something so dangerous that the Outcasts need help, Luce wants all the backup she can get, which is why I have Dogmeat and RL3 with me. I generally avoided using companions in the original series because even though it would technically satisfy the victory conditions of beating the game with the kill counters at 0, I felt like it would violate the spirit of a no-kill run. But I did let them tag along a few times where it made sense from a role-playing perspective, and this is one of those times. Along the way, I added a few quality-of-life items for those times when a no-kill run can become a tedious grind. There are parts of the game where killing isn't technically required, but then it's a matter of spamming stim packs and tanking damage from a swarm of enemies while you're doing whatever needs done. So I added a few things like buzz-off insect repellent, a chem that makes mutated bugs flee if they get within a certain distance of you, which you can buy from vendors that sell chems and sometimes find in dungeons. Metro stations frequently have ghouls in them, so we'll put on the ghoul mask. Some of the new items have the potential for mild abuse if you're not playing a pacifist, kind of like the ghoul mask, but that obviously goes against the spirit of what the mod is for, and there are easier ways to make the game easier if that's what you're looking for. If you just want to do the quests without killing anything, but otherwise stick as close as possible to the original experience, you can just ignore the new items. The mod also optionally corrects a few inconsistencies with the kill count on your Pip-Boy. For example, the aforementioned Tranquility Lane quest. Tranquility Lane is a simulation. in the vanilla game, if you kill the residents for Betty, they don't actually die, but your kill count goes up. Conversely, if you trigger the failsafe, they do die, but your kill count doesn't go up. The mod reverses that, in a few similar situations. When I say optionally, there's a configuration menu that lets you turn specific mod features on or off. You can do it individually by feature, or there are 3 presets. Bug fixes only, which is exactly what it sounds like. It disables all of the mod features except the bug fixes. Default, which is all of the bug fixes and most of the pacifist support features. It just restores the defaults if you tweaked individual settings or used a different preset and decide to go back. And strict accountability, which includes all of the bug fixes and pacifist features, but also bumps up your kill count for actions that directly result in someone's death, even if that outcome isn't necessarily foreseeable. Like giving Colonel Autumn a bogus code when he interrogates you. Just a little extra layer of complexity if you want the pacifist experience to be even more challenging. Strength wasn't a priority for this build, and our carry capacity is pretty low, so Luz prioritizes loot with a high value to weight ratio. Combat chems and ammo are perfect because they're useless to her but have 0 weight. And cigarettes are pretty good too. Somebody had a pretty nice setup down here, at least until the ghouls moved in. Bedroll, campfire, all the necessities, even a little shooting range in the other corner. I think I saw some water back there. Of course, this implies there might have been a little bit of cannibalism involved, but who am I to judge? Oh, dirty water. Set up to taunt the captive, so maybe there was somebody who deserved it. Luz has the lead belly perk because with this rule set she takes a lot of damage, and early on she couldn't be too picky about healing items, but we have plenty of stim packs these days. Now, yeah, the less optimistic explanation might be that the survivor was using the water to coerce the captive into cooperating. Which, if they were trying to enslave a raider or something, fine, but there are other possibilities that are a lot less pleasant. Anyway, when we exit here, we should get force greeted by one of the outcasts. Up at the top of the stairs.
You got a death wish? Walking through a war zone? Listen, local. If you want to be of use, help us clear the mutants between here and our base camp. If not, stay the hell out of our way.
Warzone, huh? Glad we brought that back up. Put on the T-51B, which I actually have hotkeyed. Don't need the Pip-Boy. Unfortunately, I can't just hide until this is over because Dogmeat and RL3 might not aggro if I'm not in combat, and the Outcasts stand a much better chance if they help. So I'm gonna run around to make sure they stay involved and try not to get hit. This is a good time to talk about the dilemma I mentioned about what order to play the DLC in. There are several reasons I'm doing Operation Anchorage first, and this fight is one of them. In previous videos, I've given a somewhat oversimplified explanation of how the game calculates which leveled enemy variants appear in any given encounter. It might actually be worth a sidebar analysis video to give you the full story at some point. Anyway, my first thought was that I wanted to do each DLC before certain variants started spawning. Specifically, the toughest swamp folk and tribals in Point Lookout, and aliens with shields in Mothership Zeta, which are stupid tough compared to the ones without them. But then I realized that with one exception, it's irrelevant. We can't kill anything, so their armor and hit points don't matter. What matters is how much they can hurt us. And in most of the DLCs, the enemies at Tier 5 have the same weapons as Tier 4, just in slightly better condition, so the difference in their damage output is relatively minor. The exception is Broken Steel, which doesn't add any new enemy types, but to balance out the fact that it raises the player's level cap to 30, it adds boss tier variants to many existing types. Most notably Super Mutant Overlords, Feral Ghoul Reavers, and Enclave Hellfire Troopers. Better give Dogmeat a stim pack. Reavers don't matter because we have the Ghoul Mask, but Overlords and Hellfire Troopers have significantly better weapons than other Super Mutants and Enclave troops, and they can shred the best armor the player has. You might think that would make doing Broken Steel the top priority, but the thing is, the boss variants can spawn anywhere those types appear, not just in Broken Steel, including the base game and the other DLC. And as a comment on another video pointed out, the longer I wait, the more likely it is that this ambush will include an overlord, in which case the Outcasts would get instantly slaughtered and I'd be screwed. So thanks for that tip. Good news, it is just a master. It's pretty bad when you're relieved to see a master, but overlords are almost as tough as behemoths, and they have Gatling lasers or tri-beam laser rifles, so even with the T-51B they'd really hurt, and the Outcasts wouldn't stand a chance. And they're at a serious disadvantage here because there's no way to get up to the floor where the master is. Which begs the question of how the master got up there, but we won't think too hard about that. The point being, the Outcasts' heavy weapons aren't that accurate, so it's usually the player's job to take it down. If we can get Dogmeat to distract the ones down here, RL3 and the Outcasts might be able to concentrate fire on the master. Looks like they've got the idea. Ow. Stay behind the column. Did they get it? No, but they did knock its weapon out of its hand. That'll help. Don't want to fall in the radiation pit. Yeah, it's almost dead. There you go. I'm not going down in the radiation for a little bit of loot. Let's head for the outpost. The game spawns a few more behind you once you're through the building, but we'll let the Outcasts mop them up. Morrill should force greet us again at the bottom of the ramp.
Alright, local. Mind explaining what you're doing here?
I heard your radio signal and thought I'd come and lend a hand.
How the hell did you hear my signal? It's not broadcast on a standard frequency. Oh, I see. You've got one of those wrist-mounted computers. Well, well. Isn't that interesting?
This? It's my Pip-Boy 3000. Want to see?
Isn't that fancy? Listen, kid. Maybe you could help us out. We've been looking for someone like you. Why don't you head inside and talk to Protector McGraw? I'll radio ahead and let him know you're coming. Morrill calling in. Yeah, we took care of him. Listen, I'm sending down a local. You'll want to talk to this one. Yeah, exactly. Morrill out.
If he dies, or you otherwise avoid him force greeting you, you get a slightly different reaction inside, but it doesn't prevent you from completing the quest or anything. This elevator sequence is pretty cool. The game doesn't have working elevators like Fallout 4, so there's some interesting stage magic going on behind the scenes.
Why can't we just ice the chip? McGraw gave orders. It's that simple.
Come on, man. How long you gonna let McGraw screw us over like this?
It's easy to miss if you don't have subtitles on, but some of the Outcasts think it'd be easier to steal your Pip-Boy than persuade you to help.
All right, you. Keep your weapons holstered, your hands to yourself, and your mouth shut. Follow me.
Mm-hmm. Nobody's stealing my Pip-Boy, pal.
Here she is, Protector. Like you asked.
Thank you, Defender. Give us a moment, please.
Sir, I'm going to say again that I don't like this idea.
Noted, Defender. That'll be all.
Yes, sir.
Shouldn't you be huddling in a cave somewhere?
Jeez.
So you're the one Morrill sent down. I'll be perfectly honest. I'd trust a Wastelander to shine my power armor, and even that's pushing it. But you do have that computer there on your wrist. I can see now that Morrill made the right call. Maybe you can be useful after all.
I think there's an option. Yeah. I've dealt with your group before. Fort Independence, right?
Yes, that is our main base of operations in the area. If Kasdan is willing to trust you, then I hope we can work together. Records indicate there's some high-value tech in this base, but we can't get to it. The armory is sealed by a blast door, and we can't get it open. We're pretty sure anyone who completes the facility's VR simulation program will gain access, but it requires a certain interface. Unfortunately, we don't have one. You do, right there on your wrist. I need you to go into the simulator and complete that program, which will unlock the armory. You'll get a share of the gear, of course.
Video games exist in the Fallout universe, and even though there aren't playable minigames on your Pip-Boy like in Fallout 4, the dialogue options here indicate the Lone Wanderer is familiar with them. But she also has experience with VR from Tranquility Lane, so let's go with that. Simulation, huh? Piece of cake.
Don't be so sure. It's the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska from Chinese communists. A pretty significant event in American history, I'm told. We're talking frontline heavy combat. Safety protocols disengaged. That means you die in the sim, your body goes into massive cardiac arrest. You're still listening, so I'm going to assume you're interested. But time's wasting. Sibley can take you to the pod. Olin will get you briefed. If you want to walk away, you're free to leave. My men won't stop you.
Simulation pod.
Knock, Olin. Got a new best friend for you.
What?
Yep. Let's hope you treat this one better than the last guy, huh?
Go to hell, Sibley. You know that wasn't my fault.
Sure, whatever. Just make some progress, okay? We're all looking to get out of here.
Fine, then get out and let me do my job. You're here to help? Fine, then put this on. Get in the chair, and we'll run the simulation. This sim had to have been one of the most important of its time. It's the liberation of Anchorage, Alaska from the Chinese. Eventually, the Americans went in and liberated the city, but there were heavy losses. This simulation trained soldiers for that engagement. This sim is looking for an external interface. I haven't quite figured out why, but there's no way to bypass it. Your Pip-Boy there is a match. So since you're the one wearing it, you're the one running through the simulation. Get it?
Luz is picking up bad vibes from Sibley. If you haven't played this DLC, I won't spoil it, but there's an unwelcome event later that's prevented if you can lure him into a side room and kill him silently without aggroing the other outcasts. Obviously not an option for Luz, so we'll just have to deal with it when it happens. This is the door they want us to get open, and behind it lies another reason I decided to do Anchorage first. One of the quest rewards is an item that might turn out to be instrumental in surviving the other DLC. But Sibley's kind of a creep, and while modesty isn't something Luz typically worries about, let's find some place to change where he can't peep on us. This looks like a storage room or something. That'll work. Oh my. Here we have Gary 23. Luz hasn't been to Vault 108, so she doesn't know the story there, but from the evidence in the room and the conversation between Sibley and Olin, this isn't the first time the Outcasts have tried to get a Vault Dweller with a Pip-Boy to help them. Some people seem to think there's a big discrepancy in the way Pip-Boys are handled across the franchise, but I don't think there is. When you get one at the start of Fallout 3, Stanley mentions biometric locks and says they can't be removed, and as we see here, they can't be removed without the user's permission and become inoperable if they're removed by force. But they can be removed voluntarily by the user, as evidenced by Doc Mitchell giving you his old one in New Vegas, and the fact that you can swap it out for the Pip-Boy 3 billion later in the game. In Fallout 4, you can pick one up off a dead guy and it works, but that's because it's a different model, the Mark IV, which presumably doesn't have the biometric lock feature. The thing is, you're 10 years old when you talk to Stanley and you have a new, uncomfortable gadget stuck to your wrist. I broke my arm when I was about that age, and I guarantee that if I could have gotten that frickin' cast off so I could scratch my arm once in a while, I would have done it. I think Stanley just knows how kids are, and he doesn't want you to take it off and maybe break or lose it until you get used to wearing it, so he tells a little white lie. Of course, the meta reason you can't take it off in any of the games is that then you wouldn't have a UI to play the game. I bring all that up because it'll be relevant once we enter the simulation, which we might as well do right now. I blabbed over a background conversation between some of the Outcast troops, but if you poke around, there's ample foreshadowing that there are significant morale problems because this assignment is dragging on without much progress. And now we enter the simulation.
Hey! Wake up! Come on! Snap out of it!
That was a hell of a nasty fall you took. When your chute bunched up like that, I thought you were a goner. I hope the other guys made it. I don't think their patrol spotted us coming in. So at least we still have the jump on them. You still have your gear, so I'm gonna let you make the call. You can go in quiet, or guns blazing. We'll still meet at the rendezvous point inside, as planned. Then we'll blow those artillery guns to hell. Just watch yourself. The Reds up here don't take prisoners. Good luck.
Now, as we saw in the dialogue with McGraw, Luz is familiar with video games, and she's already experienced VR in Tranquility Lane. And unlike Tranquility Lane, where the characters are avatars of other users in the sim, the enemies here are all computer-generated. So it's not the end of the world if she has to kill something, but she's still going to avoid violence as much as possible. Which is kind of meta, because I'm doing a pacifist run of a video game in which the character I'm playing is going to try to do a pacifist run of a video game. It'd probably be a bad idea to charge in guns blazing, because Luce hasn't put a single point into any weapon skills. The combat armor you have in the sim is pretty good, but it's not the T-51B. I'm going to sneak around as much as I can, but if we get spotted, retreat generally isn't an option in this section. And later on, I'm pretty sure there are objectives that require killing. One interesting thing about this DLC is that there are technically no lootable items in the simulation. There are objects that look like items, and some you can activate, like those health canisters. Objects you can interact with generally have that red glow, but the important part is no stim packs. There are also weapons you can get, but if you pay close attention, you don't get a normal prompt to pick them up. It'll say like, activate Chinese assault rifle. If you click it, the weapon gets added to your inventory. I suspect there are two reasons for that. First, immersion. It helps sell the idea that you're in a simulation, not the real world. And second, items can sometimes physics glitch out of the game world. Since you don't have your own gear and are entirely dependent on what you find in the environment here, making them activators guarantees that won't happen. Don't. You can't loot bodies either, because enemies do a kind of digital fizzle out thing and disappear when they die, which we won't see if I can get through this without killing anything. There's another one of those health canisters and a sniper rifle on the other side of this building. Excuse me. The health canisters give you a full heal, and there are enough of them in strategic positions to make up for the lack of stim packs in a normal playthrough, but getting from one to the next with enemies pounding on you the whole way is probably not a formula for long-term success. We're going to have to be a little more careful about the sneaking going forward. We meet back up with Benji in an emplacement on the other side of this pipe. Once he's with us, things will be a little more manageable. He can't die, and he's pretty effective with his assault rifle. In other circumstances, I sometimes get a little annoyed with him because he steals my kills, but today I will be very happy to see him. The VATS tutorial message keeps coming up because Luce has never used VATS, and I probably won't because it's a nice early warning system that enemies are nearby. Not that I need it right now. I'm in pretty bad shape here. There's usually a guy stationed right outside the door, but maybe that... Nope, there he is. I have like 1 hit point left. There's a canister right around the corner. It's right there. Yes. And don't forget there's a Gauss rifle right here. Probably never use it, but better safe than sorry. The room where we hook back up with Benji is at the top of this ramp, so I think we're going to make it. I'll show you what I mean about no retreat after we talk to him. He's... Okay, not right here. Here. There you see the digital fizzle effect.
Goddamn, this place is swarming with Reds. I almost didn't make it.
Yeah, me neither. Glad to see you made it in one piece.
Yeah, I almost bought it out on the cliffs. Didn't know the Reds were so handy with a sniper rifle. So, what's the situation? We clear to blow the hell out of this place?
Yep. Let's go.
I got your 6.
If we go back, there's a... Oh, did some of them make it through? Oh. The hell? How did you get in front of us? I assume that's one of the ones that was following me. There shouldn't be any in front of us until we reach the artillery guns. Benji? Little help?
Over there.
Great. The game crashed. Well, that's really annoying because reaching the health canister with 1 hit point left was pretty awesome, and when I reload the autosave, the guys who were on my tail spawn right on top of me and kill me instantly. So I'm going to call it a day, go curse for a while, and do it again next week. Maybe I can even sneak by the guy on the bridge without getting caught. As always, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment if you have questions or suggestions, and I'll see you then.